Meccano, part number 1513, tube of iron filings from the 1930s Electron set. Hi folks and welcome back. This week's build is for a small 1930s delivery van from that era. And what is its purpose? The scale is usable road gauge, and to be honest, it made a really nice toy model. It would have worked well alongside existing lead figures made by both Meccano and Britons. The thought that lead was used so much for casting figures in today's health and safety minded community is insane, but at the time it was about the only option. Zamac, the alloy of zinc, aluminium, magnesium and copper, has the issue of zinc pest or zinc rot. You will see on eBay die-cast toys that are warped and cracked. This is the zinc slowly corroding over time due to lead impurities. And as it loses its strength, the model slowly disintegrates. To my knowledge, there is nothing you can do to reverse the process, and very little you can do to slow it down, or even stop it. I have a lamp from the Meccano A-2-B lighting set that has this problem. The best advice I could find was to spray the item with varnish to stop air getting to it, in the hopes that will slow the reaction down during my lifetime. Die-cast toys were invented by the New Jersey Zinc Company back in 1928, and its use became a standard practice across the world. In the early 1930s, Morris Ashby licensed the alloy in Britain, but under the name of Mazak. It wasn't possible to get the zinc in Britain at the time of a high enough purity, so a lower standard was used, but one that could be manufactured in the country. The name Mazak was given, firstly, to distinguish it between the higher grade manufactured in New Jersey, and secondly, from the initials of Morris Ashby. By 1933, the issue of purity had been solved, with licenses being paid to allow better smelting processes at the plant in Avonmouth. There are 6 alloys in use today, each one having different purposes and areas of use, from toys, household appliances, bathroom fixtures, the automotive industry and firearms. The use of Zamac is here to stay, as it is a cheap option rather than casting in steel or brass. But buyer beware, for when you shop for toys manufactured before 1960, because hidden under the surface, chemistry might well be at work, and slowly, ever so slowly, your prized item could be disappearing before your very eyes. From the earliest beginnings of motor vehicles, people were quick to capitalise on the idea of a commercial model, and the delivery van was no different. In 1896, the German company Daimler designed and delivered its first delivery vehicle to a customer in London. The stir it must have made on the streets, with a top speed of 7 miles per hour, powered by a 2-cylinder Phoenix engine with a cargo load of 1,500 kilograms or 1.6 imperial tons. To deliver goods anywhere, anytime, without the need of the care that horses require, without having to run stables, have blacksmiths on hand, store hay. Once trained in the operation of the vehicle, anybody could drive it. To free up that amount of logistics and capital must have been very tempting for businesses. At the time, there was no driving test to sit to be able to drive. That didn't happen until 1934. In fact, you didn't need to have a driving license until 1903. And that was a simple case of filling a form out and paying the required amount. Carl Benz was not slow on the uptake either. with the Benz Velo, the four-wheeled upgrade of the prototype that his wife had driven on that now famous long-distance car journey. There is a photograph of one of his first vans made for the German photographic company Catholic. But this is an era of having your own vehicle sent to a coach works to have the body built. One such coach works was based not far from my home in the village of Black Hill. R.S. Robson's Coach Builder and Garage was still going in the 1950s, but I have no memory of it growing up in the 1970s. The vehicle was built around your needs, not adapting your needs to what the vehicle can offer you. And by the turn of the 20th century, the basic frame of the vehicle was getting more substantial. With the advent of the Model T, we were at last getting something that didn't look like an oversized child's tricycle with a sewing machine fitted to it. And as the chassis improved along with better engines, the vehicle's ability also improved. The 1950s saw the introduction of the now famous brands like the Trojan van, wonderfully recreated by Dinky Toys. And more things were being moved by road, with the transport revolution that followed. In America, both Ford and Pontiac quickly stepped up to the plate to have their share of the dish that was being offered, and adapted standard vehicles by just removing the rear doors and windows from their standard sedan cars. This allowed for an easier construction method than having a van sent to the coach builder. With this new van, we also got the pickup truck being created. But strangely, sometime in the 1950s to the early 1960s, the sedan delivery van disappeared in America. In its place, we got the cargo van instead. And probably the most inspiring theme tune to an advert that I've ever known in my childhood, the Brian May song, "Everything We Do Is Driven by You." Don't worry, I'm not going to sing it to you. If you want to hear it, YouTube it. But here's some food for thought. And all of this in 2020 during the fun that was going on at the time. Cars and taxis in the UK drove some 210 billion vehicle miles, or BVMs. Heavy goods vehicles, 16.5. Bicycles, some 5 billion vehicle miles. Buses and coaches, 1.6, and motorcycles, 2.5. But light commercial vehicles totaled 50.5 billion vehicle miles in that 1 year alone, with 77% of all of our domestic freight moved on our ageing road network, seeing us move 1.4 billion tonnes in just 1 year, with predominantly that mileage being done in England, some 242 billion miles, with Scotland driving some 23 billion miles, and Wales some 15 billion miles. And while the figures are almost nonsensical in their size and enormity, they show the increase of home delivery and how vital it is, or at least was during the pandemic. The biggest effect during 2020 was on the rail network, seeing some 33 billion passenger kilometres in 2019, but in 2020 that dropped to 14 billion. With the effect of social distancing and the unwillingness or inability to travel at the height of the restrictions, which led to the real drop in the numbers. But for me, the delivery van most reminds me of the very aged Ford Transit Mark IIs we used to use in forestry. Those vehicles were our tool shops, our supply vehicles, and our bait cabin on wheels. For those of you who have never heard of the word before, a bait cabin is where you go for your food. And the back of the transit van was a wonderful place to be. The smell of the propane gas burner heating up the kettle, the aroma of rolly cigarettes or pipes mingled with the smell of two-stroke petrol and oil. Being educated in politics, the value of life, and the fact that we knew nothing. Had a way with you, lad. You know nowt. Didn't ye come round here flapping your chops? Gan and get a proper education. I learnt to see life through a very different lens to that my father had shown me. I learnt to talk to people that my parents would never have spoken to. I got to see that the world was very different than the one I'd been led to believe. And I benefited from it. That period of my life helped me later in nursing, as I was more aware what other people might be going through. We also had little health and safety in the field then. All that was over 30 years ago. About 10 years after I'd changed jobs and was working then in mental health nursing, I met up with an old colleague from my forestry days, and we got talking about the people who trained us. I was told that two of our instructors had passed away inside a van on a cold January day with a group of students, having succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning caused by the gas burner not burning correctly. So while my time had passed safely, it was nothing more than blind, dumb luck that it hadn't been us in the back of the van.